Welcome everyone. Today I'm in this beautiful city called New York and I'll be interviewing the Resurgence gentlemen. Gentlemen, Resurgence, what is it?
So Resurgence is a post-apocalyptic MMORPG set 1,000 years in the future. It's about returning to Earth. We think it's really interesting to look at the future of the planet and what is going to potentially happen and highlight some of the issues of climate change. And we think that's more interesting than sort of going to some far-flung galaxy and seeing that, because when you come back to Earth, what's happened, habitats have changed, animals have become more dangerous, but also some of the buildings and areas and seeing what that's happened. So it's a pretty epic project.
Cool. And why this dystopian future? Why not a bright one?
So it's not necessarily dystopian, because what's interesting is Resurgence starts at the end for sort of like humankind. So it is what happens to the world when nature reclaims it back. So a lot of Resurgence is built around the beauty of nature coming back, but it's also going to be about, turning up as a 21st century human, suddenly realising the world has changed, and then what's really useful to you, what is beautiful and dangerous, what has changed, what's evolved. So don't see it as a really dark, sombre project. It will be full of sort of like bright environments, heavy vegetation, exploring things like deserts, but so not a dark dystopian.
I'd say also, it's a story of recolonisation. And in that
Of Earth.
Yeah. And coming back and starting afresh. And I think a lot of the gameplay is about community and cooperation, as opposed to just going and killing everyone else.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the gameplay? Because you're saying MMORPG.
Yeah.
Collaboration. What kind of gameplay is it going to be? What is it going to look like? What is it going to feel like?
So one of the big questions we get is sort of like, what will it be like to come back? So as an individual, it's probably like familiar things like creating your own base camps, using resources around you, evolving sort of like skills and technologies. But we're a community survival game, and what's really interesting about that is like attracting other people to join your communities and like coming together and sort of like using your strengths together.
And will it be possible to rebuild society and everything in cities?
And make it better.
Yeah.
And make it much better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, or even worse, it's like what would happen when you came back? And then there are things that we bring with us as part of that journey. So maybe there are technologies that aren't so good, and maybe there are technologies that have evolved over the time that we've been waiting. So I think it will feel very fresh and different. But
Yeah. And obviously blockchain-based Web3 project. So really interesting how we can bring perhaps our pedigree in AAA games to Web3 and deliver something like totally stunning. And we just feel like that story of the recolonisation of Earth is so appropriate to where Web3 is going and how people can have land and different colonies.
Creating a good game is tough. It's complicated.
Yeah.
You guys have a great track record. The idea sounds cool. The team is cool. But what about Web3? How are you going to implement Web3 and add value rather than just make it complicated?
I think it's interesting. We've picked probably the hardest genre of game to do, right? In an MMORPG.
100% agree.
But it is also the most appropriate to Web3. And it's already, people have been working on these games for 20 years, and they've already been dealing with economies and inflation and deflation and all that stuff. And so for us, not only did we want to go for something that's a grand vision, but we also felt that existing knowledge of and that genre will really help in Web3, because you're basically building something on a game that already has similarities, right? So there's loads of different stuff. We're relatively early in our roadmap, so our token economics, we're really transparent, right? That is not all worked out yet. we know what we're doing with NFTs and utility. We're making sure that, like, I mean, one thing we should go into is there's a lot of projects out there promising massive things really soon. That's totally not true, right?
That's impossible.
It's impossible, right? But at the same time, we know we need to deliver stuff along the way. So we have a roadmap of continual content that we're delivering. We're just doing our first NFT drop, which is for the cryo tags that are launching. We'll do different things along the way and different products along that way on our road to single player survival and then going into multiplayer, basically.
Yeah, you guys gave it some great thought of how are you going to get to the point where the MMO is fully functioning. It's going to be a long journey. It's going to take a while. You need a community to be able to colonize this game. So more about the whole Web3 elements. You see a lot of games, they just slap NFTs into their game for no reason. They introduce tokens for no reason. How are you guys going to make sure that value is added by using blockchain technology?
Straight away, we're taking everyone on the journey and building the community. We want people to participate in just even evolving the story of the end. So we're looking in the next couple of weeks, we're going to launch an ARG, and that is really a bit like I suppose it's a fictional world that you put into the real world. So you find out stories and informations about characters in our world via the internet and searching for these characters. And by allowing people to do that, we're going to get people to just really engage and get immersed in the story of Resurgence and start to touch on some of the characters in the present day as they live out the end of the earth. Why that's important is that it will bring communities in, it will get people to start to engage. We can start to deliver on playability gradually over time. So even though we have a really long roadmap, we plan to work with the community in trying out different aspects of gameplay and trying out different mechanics as we go through the development of the game.
And specific to the NFT elements, one of our key things is delivering non-game unbalancing assets. So, we've seen projects that promise things in the end game that we know are not going to be possible. So our first one's a cryo tag. So everyone in the game, when they come back to the planet, has this dog tag. The original Genesis Zeros that we're launching are for the very special first people that came to the game, and they've been rewarded those. They'll have loads of extra benefits. They give you access to the land, the Great Divide we call it, which is when the planet gets sort of divided up. So there's stuff along the way, but it needs to be thought of as like premium pass, sort of non-game unbalancing stuff.
I think if we release an NFT, then we need to make sure that it's always adding value to the game and it actually is intrinsic to it.
And how are you guys going to make sure that the things that you add, why is it not possible to just not do that as like a non-NFT, right? You can already release DLCs and Game Pass. So what's the difference?
So for me, that goes back to the core of why we're doing this, right? So the reason we're really interested in Web3 and decentralized games is that we believe that's a revolution that is coming and is unstoppable, right? And really, that fundamentally is about a shift in the relationship between publishers and players, and that there should be ownership, right? So in most Web 2 games that you get now, you give your money to the publisher and that's it, and you don't get any value exchange from that. And we don't think that's right, and we think that the beauty of blockchain is that people can have some ownership of those assets and then trade them out. And we really believe in the Web3 phenomenon of decentralized games because it's going to bring communities that are invested in games together with games makers. We all benefit from that, right? We're going to have millions of players that are like crazy happy with our game and have benefited from it too. So yes, we could give people avatars and cryotags and things that they don't own, but isn't it better to share that with people? Personally,
100% agree. I've spent way too much money on microtransactions, and whenever I stop playing the game, it's done. When I go to a different game, it's not like I can carry over my purchases. I can't sell it really. I gotta sell my account, which I'm not gonna do. And then on top of that, it's just within the game that I get stuff, right? Not like on their next game or on their Discord or on their Twitters. You can add a lot of value with NFTs if done correctly, but you could also really mess it up if you do it the wrong way, right? And I love it how you guys say, okay, well, we understand how it works, and we're gonna go this direction, and we have this vision, and to me it sounds pretty bulletproof if executed correctly, to then give the community, whoever's playing the game, a lot more benefits. In private, we talked about the mint. You guys were considering making it free.
Yeah, we are. No,
NFTs.
we are. It's out today, actually.
Why? Why free?
Well,
You see all these guys, they ask millions and millions and millions, and you say, no, we're just going to do it for free.
So we see no downside in that, right? So one of the philosophies of the studio, not just with this game, is game first, right? So we're not big fans of play to earn, to be honest with you. We are like, play to earn has a place, but it is a small place in the whole ecosystem, right? So we need to mimic the stuff that's already happening in freemium and free to play. You've got players that will always be able to play our games for free and will never connect to the blockchain and don't want to. We'll have some players that will play to earn, and we'll have a larger number of players that will pay to play. And they will benefit from trading and doing all those different things. When we come to like the token and the first tags that we're doing, the cryo tags, we thought to ourselves, okay, we could launch these at 1 ETH, 2 ETH, whatever the price. But what we see is that those projects launch, and if they're really hyped projects, they go up, and then they could go down. And we thought to ourselves, well, there's no downside if we launch it from nothing, right? Apart from we won't get loads of money up front. That's the only downside, right? So, but we're building for 2-3 years. We're a well-funded studio. We see that if you start from nothing and that goes up, and maybe it will go down at certain times, and hopefully will continue to go up. But
it can never go below zero.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So the way we're doing it is an invite only, sort of 1,000 very rare set, and we just think that's the way to go. And it builds on when we're talking about it. It builds on the philosophy of what we're trying to do anyway.
Yeah. Some people watching this, I assume, will want to know how to get it. How do you get one of these Genesis?
Yeah. So we are going to do some. So out of the 1,000, 800 of those are going to be invite only to people that we really want on board, influential people in the community, people we think we want to hold one of our NFTs. We don't particularly want people to be trading them massively. We want them to hold on to them, and there's lots of different things in the utility that mean people will hold them. We've then got another 100 that we're going to give out to the community, and they'll be able to win those through following the ARG, getting excited about the project, being on our channels, that sort of thing. So there's 100 of those in this first wave, and then I think we're holding back 100 for ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically how. I mean, essentially, get involved in the project, follow the channels, become one of the community, and be rewarded by participating is the way.
And then you can get the NFT.
Yeah.
What are you guys most excited about? Because obviously you're making this game. You want it to be the coolest thing ever. But what is that one thing where you're like, oh, if that's what I want to get to. That's the point where you'll be excited. You'll pop a bottle of champagne. You'll celebrate.
I think for me, the biggest change as a developer is embracing community. So this whole starting the ARG, I mean, for us, we are building a massive lore. And the reason for that is if we create a big enough world, people will be able to just participate in it and own it and take it in different directions. So I think the day that we turn around and we find that the community is influencing the way the game's being created, that would be a big turning point, because we'll have put the tools in place for the community to sort of like self-build itself. And the day that someone creates the first NFT within the game themselves, and it's something they're really proud of and the community backs, that for me would be like.
So the community will also be able to create NFTs.
Yeah.
How's that gonna look? Like what are
not fully UGC? That probably is the way.
Okay.
We're trying to build this stylistic
That would be
world.
an interesting approach, though.
Oh no, I think so. I think though, when you're dealing with a AAA game, it's very rare that is just anyone can do anything, and because it's stylized, right? I was going to say, by the way, for me, the thing that I'm most excited about is when we start dropping some of the trailer and the content and stuff, and people go, holy crap, these guys are real AAA players.
The first time you start getting that feedback.
But also just, people can tell visually how good the team, how good the project is, and dropping some of those initial assets and trailer assets that we'll be doing in the next month or so. I think that'll be my wow moment, because I think in blockchain people are like, oh, this feels like a good idea, but I haven't seen anything really that good yet, and that'll be the exciting point for me.
I'll be very excited to see the gameplay trailer.
Yeah.
Because I'm a critical, like, if I see concept art, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's concept art, or they're renders.
Yeah.
Sure. Gameplay is where I feel like, okay, now this is as real as it gets to the experience of the game. Then again, you guys are going for a free-to-play model.
Yeah, I think
so it's not like you can just try it out. Don't like it, no problem.
I think we are going to test and learn. You might have to wait a bit to see your gameplay footage trailer.
I'll be patient.
But we are going to do a demo for the end of the year. The way we're creating the sort of launch trailer is actually in Unreal, isn't it? So you'll start to see the quality of the stuff. You may not see all the gameplay stuff, but we'll definitely have you on board to make sure you're testing and playing the stuff. So
back to user-generated content.
So for us, it's giving people power to kind of craft and create their own things. And within the gaming community, or within their communities in the game, they'll know what's most valued in the game. It's the same as when you're playing any game. The reason you want to trade or take things out or give them to friends is because they've become valuable to you. So we just want to empower people to be able to do that and be able to trade the things that they think are really important within the game. Because that's what's going to create, it's the community that will decide what's of real value.
Yeah, and what will that look like? Is it going to be maybe you farm some stuff, or you defeat a monster and you get an item, and that is the thing you can trade?
It could be the thing that you've used or you've created to defeat that monster, or it could be that so it becomes particularly valued within the community, or it could be that it could be a dungeon that you've kind of been giving you tools to create that you want to share, or I think there are a number of tools that we want to give to the community, as you do within these games, that enable people to model and adapt things, or even build things, like craft their own things. But we're still exploring, we're still trying to work that stuff out.
Still very early on in development. Making a game takes a long time, so I assume a lot of things change.
Yeah. Totally. I mean,
the key thing is having that universe that's been created. So we work with some really kick-ass writers. They've written some big sci-fi Netflix shows, and creating that lore and that universe for the story means that you can experiment and implement, but you're not just totally pivoting and going off, right? So it all is in this world and this story universe.
Can you guys go a little bit more in depth into the lore? Because so far we have this setting, this post-apocalyptic world. Who caused all of this? Who made sure humanity was surviving? Maybe some more.
Yeah, as much as you can without spoilers. Right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I've got our producer in my head going, don't say that, don't say that. Essentially, unfortunately, there are 3 crises that hit us in the next 10 years. Some of them feel really familiar. So there's a disease or a virus, well, it's a parasite actually, that attacks humankind. We know that there's a blight across crops, and we know that due to some industrialization, that some of the super volcanoes unfortunately begin to erupt. And those 3 things become a bit of a calamity. You will notice probably on the NFT at the moment there's a logo for a corporation called Vandercorp, and we'll get to explore the proprietor of that business a bit more, along with a couple of other characters in the ARG, and they'll gradually reveal the whole story around what happens towards the end.
Is it worth saying, with the ARG, the way we're doing it is...
I was just going to say, what ARG, when, where...
So I think launching 29th, literally in a few days.
Okay.
It's like a sort of great mixed media, beautifully shot, lots of different fake websites, things to find on the internet, people to search around to uncover the story behind this. And then we have key characters that are involved in that. You know, I don't want to go into too much about what they are, but you find out these characters, they all have a different view. You've got to work out what's real, what's not real, what's the story, and as you go along the rabbit trail of like finding out what's going on, you'll uncover the story basically. And that leads you to our first, I mean, we've made public our roadmap, so the ARG is going to probably be about 6 months. We then go into our Hacker Sim, which is basically our second game, which is more of a proper PC-based game and mobile game. We're working with the guys from Kaigon Games, which we made our Doctor Who game with. They're amazing in the found phone genre. They made Simulacra and Sarah is Missing. Really top team based out in Malaysia. So they're helping us on that first Hacker Sim, which will be like the first chance people can play the game, albeit a certain side story of the end. And then we move from that into middle-ish of next year will be the single-player survival, and then that moves along the roadmap in a sort of more of a live ops way into multiplayer.
Very cool. So one more question: what is it like to create video games?
Fun and really hard.
Yeah.
How come?
Well, like
it's hard work, right? It's really fun. I love every part of the process, and it just changes every time. So, you know, when you go into concepts and you're kind of trying to work out the ideas and everything's up for grabs, that's great fun. But then you have to start funneling that down into sort of like, well, actually, what is it? What is it we're trying to make? Starting to build prototypes and mechanics, but every phase is really different. But it can be, you know, it is quite intense work, and it is for quite a long time. So
yeah, it's tough. I mean, one of the things that I think we're very lucky of, and worth people watching this looking into, is the background of the team. So we have a team of like nearly 60 people. They're all from great pedigree, from places like PlayStation, Codemasters, Sumo, lots of things. And I think, you know, even in the Web3 space, that's pretty unusual. But they've all been, you know, many of them have made MMOs. Russ has released some amazing games at his time at Lego and PlayStation. It is hard. Like, to your point, it's really hard. Anyone that says it's easy is just not being true. Because basically you're creating with technology, and you can do a sprint, you can go through all that work and put everything in, and it works from a code perspective, but if it's not fun, it's not fun, right? And then you have to start again. So I think that's the art and science combination is really the tricky thing. But what you have to do is just fall back on things that you've done before that are great and work, right?
What's one word of advice you would give to someone who's like, I want to create video games?
Oh, my word of advice. I think if you start QAing, if you can actually get yourself into a QA department and you really want to get into video games, it is the place where you'll learn everything about how video games are made, and you won't stop testing your own games throughout your entire life or career, whatever level you'll end up on. But you'll appreciate what every discipline does, because you'll have to communicate with them, and it's the best starting point for anyone.
And pick a good studio to go and work with.
Yeah.
Like you guys.
Yeah, obviously.
All right. Well, thank you.
Cool. It's been amazing.
Looking forward to see what you guys are going to be distributing. Where can people find you?
Most of the channels, Resurgence Game. Probably Twitter and Discord are the main ones we're going to focus on. They're the best ones, right?
Yeah,
and
Resurgence.
Resurgence.
Join the Discord community to find out more about the ARG and just pass. You know, we want people to share that content amongst themselves and start talking about it and trying to work out what's going on within the world of Resurgence.
If they can as well, I'd say go to resurgence-game.io and sign up to the mailing list, because we are going to release a lot of the ARG clues through email and stuff like that. So
Ooh, okay.
Might be a good thing to get in early.
You heard it here first. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Cool.
Check everything out.
Great.
Bye.